Neuroscientists cracked open the machinery of habit and found the same three parts every time. A cue fires, a routine runs, a reward lands. Stress hits, the hand reaches for the cigarette, the relief arrives, and the loop closes. That is the whole mechanism, and it does not care whether the routine is killing you. The brain logs only one thing: the loop completed, the reward paid out. Run it again next time the cue appears. This is why willpower fails you. You are trying to muscle your way out of a system that was built to run automatically, beneath your conscious control, designed by evolution to bypass exactly the deliberate effort you keep throwing at it. The man who treats his bad habits as moral failures will fight them forever and lose. The one who sees the loop for the mechanical thing it is, finally, has something he can actually take apart. Your worst chapter was not a string of unrelated mistakes. It was a set of loops running on schedule, each one triggered by a cue you never identified, each one paying out a reward you never named. The late night eating, the doom scrolling, the drink after work, you experience them as choices, as failures of character, as proof that something is wrong with you. They are none of that. They are loops, executing exactly as designed, and the reason they feel impossible to stop is that you keep attacking the wrong part. You go after the routine, the visible behavior, white-knuckling against the cigarette or the screen, while leaving the cue and the reward completely intact. The cue still fires, the craving for the reward still builds, and eventually, depleted, you run the routine again, then hate yourself for it, never realizing you were fighting the one piece of the loop that was never going to surrender. The cue is where the real power sits, and almost no one looks there. Every loop begins with a trigger, and the triggers fall into a handful of categories: a time of day, a location, an emotional state, the people around you, the action that came just before. The cigarette is not really about the cigarette. It is about the stress that precedes it, the specific feeling that fires the loop into motion. Until you identify what actually trips the wire, you are fighting a fire while ignoring the spark that keeps relighting it. Track yourself for a few days like a detective working a case. When the craving hits, note where you are, what you feel, what just happened. The pattern will emerge, and it will surprise you because the cue is rarely the thing you assumed. Diagnose the trigger and you have found the lever that the entire loop turns on. Now understand the part that actually frees you. You do not destroy a habit by deleting it. The loop does not have a delete function. What you can do is keep the cue, keep the reward, and swap out the routine in the middle. The brain wants relief from stress. It does not specifically require the cigarette to get it. Give it a different routine that delivers a similar payout, and the loop reorganizes around the new behavior. Stress fires, and instead of the cigarette you walk, you breathe, you do 10 push-ups. Anything that lands a comparable reward of relief and release. The craving still comes, but now it gets answered by something that builds you instead of something that buries you. This is the entire secret the strugglers never learn. You are not trying to defeat the loop. You are trying to redirect it, hijacking a mechanism that was running against you and pointing it back in your favor. The reward is sneakier than it looks, and getting it wrong is why most replacement habits fail. A man tries to quit the afternoon candy bar and swaps in an apple, then wonders why it does not stick. He misdiagnosed the reward. He assumed it was hunger when the real payout was a break from boring work. A few minutes of walking to the vending machine, a small social moment with a coworker. The apple at his desk delivered none of that, so the loop rejected it and dragged him back to the candy. To swap a routine successfully, You have to know exactly what reward the old one was paying. Was it the sugar or the escape? The nicotine or the ritual? The dopamine or the relief from a feeling you were avoiding? Name the true reward and you can find a new routine that satisfies it. Guess wrong and the loop reasserts itself every time. Picture the loop running in slow motion so you can see each frame. The cue arrives, a flicker of boredom while you wait. A craving stirs, the brain anticipating its reward, already half feeling the relief to come. The hand moves toward the phone. The scroll begins. The dopamine drips. The loop closes. The brain files it as a success, and the wiring grows a fraction stronger. The groove a fraction deeper. The next repetition, a fraction more automatic. Every time you run it, you reinforce it, which is why bad habits feel like they get stronger over time. They do. You have been practicing them, thousands of repetitions, building the neural pathway like a muscle. But the same machinery that built the bad loop will build a good one with equal loyalty. It has no preference. It will reinforce whatever routine you feed it, and you have been feeding it your destruction. The environment is loaded with cues you never installed on purpose, and they are running your loops without your permission. The phone on the nightstand is a cue. The snacks in the cabinet at eye level are a cue. The route home that passes the bar is a cue. You blame your weak resolve when really your surroundings are firing triggers at you all day, each one launching a loop you then have to fight. The man who understands habits stops relying on resolve and starts engineering his environment. He removes the cues for the loops he wants dead, and plants cues for the loops he wants alive. The phone charges in another room. The junk food never enters the house. The gym bag sits by the door where he cannot miss it. He is not stronger than you. He simply stopped letting a hostile environment trip wires he then had to resist with willpower he did not have.
Look at the world with the eyes of a commander, and entertainment stops looking innocent. Every platform, every app, every feed, every notification, every thumbnail, every headline, every argument, every short video, and every glowing symbol is standing at the gate of your mind asking for entry. None of them are asking because they care about your future. They are asking because your attention can be captured, studied, redirected, sold, and converted into profit while you sit there calling the transaction harmless. Companies do not spend fortunes refining algorithms because they want to make your life richer. They study your hesitation, your curiosity, your anger, your loneliness, your boredom, your lust, your insecurity, your envy, your need for novelty. Then they serve you exactly enough stimulation to keep you from returning to yourself. You think you are browsing. In many moments, you are being measured. The screen learns what holds you, what weakens you, what seduces you, and what makes you stay one more minute. Attention is not a casual resource. It is the steering wheel of your life. Skill grows when the mind returns to practice with enough consistency to create depth. The body changes when focus is aimed toward training, food, recovery, and repetition instead of scattered cravings. Money improves when thought is directed toward value, leverage, learning, execution, and discipline. Relationships deepen when presence replaces half-listening and emotional residue from 1,000 digital interruptions. Cheap pixels do not merely entertain you. They redirect the same energy that could have been used to build something real. A man becomes whatever receives the strongest portion of his attention over time. Not what he claims to value, not what he posts about, not what he thinks about once during a motivated night. The repeated object of attention becomes the architect of identity, A life does not collapse in one dramatic moment when distraction wins. It weakens through tiny withdrawals so small they feel too insignificant to respect. 5 minutes after waking becomes 10. A quick check during work becomes a 20-minute drift. One video before sleep becomes an hour stolen from recovery. A notification between tasks becomes a broken chain of thought. The danger is not merely wasted time. The deeper damage is training the nervous system to escape whenever reality asks for presence. Difficulty appears and the hand reaches. Silence appears and the hand reaches. Boredom appears and the hand reaches. Soon the phone is no longer a device. It becomes a reflex. The body moves before command is issued. The loop starts beneath awareness, and by the time you notice it, distraction has already been promoted into routine. Neuroplasticity is cold. It does not care whether the pattern you repeat makes you stronger or more useless. The brain strengthens what you rehearse. Scroll when bored often enough, and boredom becomes a doorway into consumption. Escape when anxious long enough, and anxiety becomes married to distraction. Run from hard work into stimulation repeatedly, and difficulty becomes a trigger for avoidance. Feed loneliness with shallow digital noise, and the nervous system begins seeking screens instead of real connection. This is how the loop gains power. Trigger, urge, action, relief. Repeat. Each cycle reduces friction until the habit feels natural, then necessary, then invisible. The prison does not need bars when the prisoner starts calling the cage his personality. The most dangerous habits rarely feel destructive while they are being built. They arrive dressed as recovery. They call themselves relaxation. They whisper that staying informed matters. They pretend a break has been earned before the work has been completed. Weakness rarely introduces itself honestly. It does not say, "I am here to destroy your focus, fracture your ambition, and make deep work feel unbearable." It says, "Just a few minutes." A tired mind believes the bargain because the cost is delayed. Nothing collapses after one scroll. No dream dies after one wasted evening. No future disappears after one distracted morning. That is why the trap is effective. Damage hides inside repetition. By the time the pattern becomes obvious, the nervous system has already learned to prefer speed, novelty, outrage, comparison, and effortless reward over the slow pressure of becoming excellent. Attention shapes identity, because whatever enters the mind repeatedly leaves residue. Spend enough time watching strangers perform wealth, and your own progress begins looking pathetic even when it is real. Consume outrage daily, and the emotional baseline becomes aggression, disguised as awareness. Stare at empty pleasure long enough, and appetite grows louder than principle. Live inside comparison, and gratitude becomes difficult because the mind keeps measuring your life against edited fragments. Scatter focus across constant novelty, and long thought begins to feel almost painful. This is not philosophy, it is conditioning. The gate matters, the guard matters. A mind with no guard is not open-minded, it is occupied territory. The loudest forces enter first, because they know subtlety is unnecessary when the door has been left unlocked. Technology itself is not the enemy. A disciplined mind can use the same device to learn, build, publish, sell, research, communicate, create, and multiply its reach. A weaker mind uses that same device to dissolve its attention into dust and then wonders why meaningful progress feels impossible. The difference is command. When a tool serves a mission, it becomes leverage. Once appetite starts giving the orders, the tool becomes a leash. The question is never simply whether you use the screen. The question is what state you enter with and what state you leave with. Did you enter with purpose and leave with progress? Or did you enter through impulse and leave drained, overstimulated, vaguely ashamed, and less capable of doing the work that matters? Reclaiming attention begins with a humiliation clean enough to become useful. You must admit how cheaply the world can buy you. A red symbol can buy you. A thumbnail can buy you. A stranger's opinion can buy you. A comment section can buy you. A short burst of novelty can buy you. The admission should not make you collapse into shame. It should sharpen you. A commander cannot defend territory he refuses to map. Study the exact moments your focus gets stolen. Morning boredom, afternoon fatigue, evening loneliness, work frustration, emotional discomfort, mental resistance. The pattern will reveal itself if you stop pretending the theft is random. Distraction usually arrives through a familiar door. Once that door is named, it can be locked.
Thinking is the cheapest currency in existence, and you have been spending it like it buys something. Every man can think. The drunk on the corner has thought about turning his life around. The failure has thought about the business he never started. Thought costs nothing, risks nothing, builds nothing, and that is precisely why it feels so safe to live there. You can sit in the comfort of your own ideas for decades, planning, considering, refining the vision, and at the end have exactly what you started with, which is nothing but a head full of unrealized intentions. The world does not pay out for thought, it pays out for action, and the brutal gap between the two is where almost every life quietly dies. You are not what you think, you are what you do. And right now the ledger of your doing is thinner than the ledger of your dreaming. The will to act is a separate faculty from the ability to think, and confusing the two has wrecked more men than any external enemy. You believe that once you understand something clearly enough, the action will follow naturally. It will not. Understanding and execution run on different machinery, and you can possess perfect clarity about what you should do while remaining completely incapable of doing it. The man who reads every book on discipline and remains undisciplined is not lacking knowledge. He is lacking the will to convert knowledge into motion, the willingness to feel the resistance and move anyway. Knowledge is the map, will is the legs. A man with the finest map in the world and no legs goes nowhere, and dies exactly where he was born, surrounded by the best directions he never followed. Action terrifies you in a way thinking never does, and the fear is the whole point. When you think about the hard thing, you risk nothing. The moment you act, you expose yourself to failure, to judgment, to the possibility that you are not what you hoped. So the mind, protecting your ego, keeps offering you more thinking as a substitute, more planning, more research, more preparation, and it all feels productive while functioning as elaborate avoidance. The endless planning is cowardice wearing the mask of diligence. At some point, the preparation is finished and the only thing left is the leap. And the man who cannot leap will dress up his paralysis as prudence for the rest of his life. Real will is the capacity to act while afraid, to move before you feel ready, because ready is a feeling that never arrives for anything that matters. A blueprint is not a building. You can hold the most detailed plans ever drawn, perfect in every measurement, and live your whole life sleeping in the rain because you never picked up a hammer. The man who has thought brilliantly about his life and never acted on it possesses nothing but blueprints, a stack of beautiful plans for structures that will never exist. And the world is full of these men, articulate, intelligent, full of insight about exactly how they should live, and utterly stalled. They can tell you precisely what they ought to do. They simply will not do it, and so all their intelligence amounts to a more sophisticated way of standing still. Intelligence without will is a tragedy dressed up as potential. The dullest man who acts will pass the brilliant man who only thinks every single time, and he will not even glance back. What separates a man from a boy was never the quality of his thoughts. Boys think grand thoughts constantly, dream enormous dreams, imagine themselves heroes of stories they will never live. The crossing into manhood happens at the moment thought becomes action, when a person stops merely intending and starts executing, when the word given is the word kept regardless of how he feels that morning. A man does the thing he said he would do, not because the motivation showed up, but because his word and his action are bound together by will. The boy waits to feel like acting. The man acts and lets the feeling catch up if it ever does. This is the line. And most people who are legally adults have never crossed it, still waiting somewhere inside for the mood that will finally make the doing easy. The will is a muscle, and yours has gone soft from disuse. Every time you choose comfort over the hard right action, you weaken it. Every time you act against the pull of resistance, you strengthen it. This is why discipline compounds, why the man who acts becomes more capable of acting, and the man who avoids becomes more incapable, each living out the consequences of thousands of small reps in opposite directions. You did not arrive at your current weakness by accident. You trained it, choice by choice, teaching yourself to negotiate with resistance instead of overpowering it. But the same training works in reverse. Force one hard action today against everything in you that resists, and the muscle gains a fraction of strength. String enough of those together, and the man who once could not act becomes the man who cannot be stopped.
A great man begins his violence inward, not because he hates himself, but because he respects reality enough to know that ungoverned weakness becomes dangerous once it starts judging the world. Before he condemns laziness in another person, he inspects the laziness hiding inside his own routines. Before he criticizes another man's lack of discipline, he looks at the promises he broke in private. Before he speaks about standards, loyalty, courage, or excellence, he places those words under the blade and asks whether his own life has earned the right to use them. That is the difference between authority and noise. Authority is built through self-conquest. Noise is produced by the undisciplined ego searching for someone else to blame. The man who has not examined himself becomes loud because he needs distraction from the internal trial he keeps postponing. The man who has already put himself through judgment speaks differently because his words carry the weight of punishment already endured. Self-strictness is not self-hatred, and weak minds confuse the two because they want any serious standard to sound unhealthy. A man being hard on himself does not mean he wakes up every morning calling himself worthless. It means he refuses to let comfort write the law. It means he can identify his excuses without dressing them in poetry. It means he can admit when he is underperforming, when he is hiding, when he is chasing cheap pleasure, when he is avoiding responsibility, when he is expecting respect from others, while failing to respect his own word. This kind of inner discipline is clean. It does not scream. It does not perform. It operates like a courtroom with no audience. Evidence enters. Judgment follows. Correction begins. A man who can do that privately becomes difficult to corrupt publicly because he has already learned not to believe every soft story his mind tells him. A dangerous pattern appears when someone lacks internal standards. He becomes obsessed with external control. Since he cannot master his appetite, he tries controlling other people's behavior. Since he cannot govern his temper, he lectures others about respect. Since he cannot handle his own insecurity, he searches for enemies who can carry the blame. Since his habits are undisciplined, he becomes strangely passionate about everyone else's flaws. This is not strength. It is misdirected shame. The energy that should have been used to repair his own foundation gets spent throwing stones at neighboring houses. A great man reverses the order. He does not begin by asking what everyone else must fix. His first question cuts inward. Where am I lying? Where am I soft? Where am I inconsistent? Which part of my life would embarrass me if it were shown without explanation?